Anecdotes for success. Level up with truth, meaning, trade-offs, perspective.
All right. Today we have Devin Burch. Hi, Devin. How are you?
Good. How are you, Paul?
Good. Matt, I was telling you earlier, Devin, he's been an ex-student, then he was an ex-colleague, and now he's living his best life down in Texas. And I don't want to tell any more of the story. So, Devin, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Elmira Heights with my grandparents, basically since middle school. So I was a student at Elmira Heights Central School District, Thomas A. Edison, where Paul was a teacher. He was actually my PIG teacher, participation in government and economics. I want to get my bachelor's degrees in mathematics and education at the State University of New York at Oneonta State. Played Division III baseball there. From there, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, actually. So believe it or not, I actually worked for a few months at a max security correctional or adolescent correctional facility for a few months and decided that that wasn't for me. And actually that's when there was a position that opened up at my alma mater at Thomas Edison for math teaching position. I interviewed. I happened to know some people, which helped, and I ended up landing the job. And that's where my career as a teacher started. And I taught for 5 years at Thomas Edison, which is the longest that I taught at any school that I taught at. And I can kind of touch on those 5 years because those 5 years is when I kind of realized I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. And I think I knew that really early on, believe it or not. And I always tell this to people, you cannot like something and be very good at it. And I do think that I was good at it, but believe it or not, I woke up every day not wanting to go to work. Of course, there were parts of my job that I loved. And then there was a lot of my job that I didn't like. It wasn't a healthy balance. Of course, there's not going to be a perfect job out there. And maybe there is for some people, but I think with everything comes a little bit of gripe. So, after 5 years, I decided to go to a different district, maybe find happiness at a different district. Ended up going to Odessa Montour, Central School District, taught there for a year. And then this is where it gets interesting. So realized really quickly that it wasn't the school, it was the profession for me. So we sold our house in Elmira and we moved to Ithaca at this point. So we had a little extra pocket change. And this is where I got the bright idea that I was going to start my own business. My wife pretty much supported me. I was pretty desperate at this point to get out of teaching. And the desperation is kind of what bit me in the butt. And I'll get into that in a little bit here. So, I got my personal training certification because fitness had been a big part of my life. I kind of fell in love with fitness in college through baseball. I actually got into lifting through baseball, kind of fell out of love with baseball and into love with fitness. So, ever since I was, 17, 18, fitness has been a huge, huge part of my life. And I was like, well, I'm a good teacher and I love fitness. So why don't I kind of mesh those together? Because those are my two strengths. So, I got my personal trainer certification. I got my health coaching certification and I gave my resignation at the end of the year. And I started the foundations of Burch Fitness, which I didn't know it was going to be called Burch Fitness at that point. So, I walked out of the doors in June and started on this path that lasted about a year and a half. So Burch Fitness ultimately ended up failing, which is okay. I learned a lot actually in the process. I did a lot of things that I thought I had to do that I didn't realize until now that I didn't have to do. A lot of fancy stuff. fancy business stuff that you see on the internet. Once you're a coach, once you become an online health and fitness coach, you realize that everyone's an online health and fitness coach. Everyone's a Beachbody coach. And to stand out in the crowd, you got to have fancy pictures, and you got to post fancy videos and all this. And ended up making some financial decisions. I think that in the end, I probably kind of shut the business down a little bit sooner than well, I didn't want to shut the business down at all, obviously, but a lot sooner than I anticipated. So, I kind of went into this business thing blind, literally blind, again, out of desperation. Didn't really know what I was doing. Didn't really have a solid game plan, kind of just went in cold turkey. I learned a lot in the beginning. My wife kind of helped me. She was good. She's good with marketing and things like that. And gave me a lot of ideas, a lot of things I didn't listen to her on that I probably should have.
Does your wife work? I mean, you said she's good at marketing. Okay.
Yeah, so she's a IT project manager for Cornell University.
Got it. Cool.
So she's a pretty smart cookie. So I started Burch Fitness, and I kind of just did what I thought was the right things to do in that field. Putting out as much information as I could, offering free services, getting the fancy pictures, doing the videos. And then, there came a point where I realized that, I'm really good at this coaching thing, but there's a lot of things that I'm not really good at. I'm not really good at marketing, and I'm not really good at understanding, the ins and outs of social media, and I'm not a good salesman. And I think that was the biggest thing, is the way I look at money, because I think everyone looks at money differently. And I think the way that you look at money has to do with how you ask other people for money and the approach you take in a sales pitch, right? Even though I knew that what I was selling, the people on the other end needed it. And I knew that they were going to get their money's worth. And I knew that they're going to get their money's worth because I always deliver. And I do believe that myself. I actually tend to over deliver, which is also something that kind of was, I don't want to say it kind of ruined the business or anything, but I was putting too many eggs in the delivery basket and asking for too little in return, and ends didn't meet at the end. The clients I worked with saw great results. You can see some of my clients on my Instagram page. A lot of them were actually local clients, friends, family, and a lot of them, I gave my service to for free. And I was happy to do that. And in the end, when I look back in the end, maybe I shouldn't have done that. They say that if a friend or family wants your services, then they shouldn't ask for a discount, that they should pay full price for your product, especially if they believe in it and they want to support you, and I did get them results. So, about a year into the business is when I started sweating a little bit, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I came in and spoke in Paul's classroom, and it might have seemed.
No, you did wonder.
Yeah.
That's, on the outside, it looked like you were killing it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are in that position especially in the field of fitness, where from the outside, it looks like things are going really well. And not that they aren't for that person, but their business might not be as rosy peachy as it might seem. Not that I don't think I ever tried to give the perception that I was making thousands and thousands of dollars per month. But I ended up, I hired the coach of the fitness coach. So I ended up actually, joining a program of a pretty well-known fitness coach, that had the name behind them. And it was a pretty good chunk of change. And I realized real quickly, this was actually one of the biggest things I took away from this, is that the quality wasn't there of the program. So you're paying I paid for this big name, but the quality behind the content that I was receiving and the coaching that I was receiving wasn't there. And, I learned a lot about business and a lot about, how sharky people can be. Especially I think the fitness industry is full of sharky people. And, like I said, I realized really quickly that a lot of times when you go for a product from a big box or a big name, you're not going to get the quality that you're going to get from somebody who's charging less, or well, maybe perhaps charging a little bit more, and has a less of a load to kind of carry, because that person at the top kind of has to spread all that out, and is giving a lesser quality product. So I went through all that, and then after I went through that program, that was kind of like where I think I knew that the end was near. It was kind of like that was like my all in at that point. I was like, I'm going to go through this course, and I had these aspirations to come out on the other side, and it was going to be all right. Everything, they were going to teach me everything I needed to know to be successful, because that's what they said. I was going to get 100 clients in, 100 leads, close half of them. And, it didn't pan out. It didn't pan out. And I would say, after that, I kind of fell into a little state of depression, actually, at that point. This is tough to say, and I've said this to people, but I kind of felt invincible going into the business because I thought that I couldn't fail. I haven't failed a ton in my life before that. I would consider myself pretty successful. When you grow up, I think in Elmira Heights, the success was like, hey, you get a good job, you got a house, you made it, man. Congratulations, that's awesome. And so, my first 5 years of teaching and getting raises, and then getting a raise when I went to Odessa, I felt good. I was good at my job, even though I didn't like it. I had a house, I was married, we had money. I was like, I can't fail. I can't fail. That's between the desperation and the feeling of I can't fail, which is what led me into the business. Once I experienced a catastrophic failure, like I said, I probably spent 6 months in this state of what am I going to do? I was still coaching. I was still trying things with the business to try to make something work in the end. And then we were like, we're going to run out of money. We're going to run out of money here. So I was like, I got to do something. So that is when I ultimately, I finished up with the clients I had, but in the meantime, I had to find a teaching position because I didn't know. I was like, what am I going to do? I have to go back to teaching. That's my career. This is the path I have to go now. So I applied for a position with BOCES it was called Seven Valleys New Tech Academy in Cortland, New York. Ended up getting the position. This was like maybe a quarter of the way into the school year. I ended up getting that position, which saved our lives at that point. It was the worst thing to happen to me, and it was the best thing because I knew that I just didn't want to go back to doing that, but I knew I had to. So it was a blessing. And ultimately from that point, Burch Fitness kind of just dwindled away. It's sad to say, and sometimes I'll get alerts on Facebook, hey, someone like Burch Fitness. I'm like, oh, that's cool. The page is still there, but the website shut down. I had this awesome website. Again, one of those financial decisions is like, why did I pay thousands of dollars for this website that generated 0 leads? So I ended up teaching at Seven Valleys, and I almost didn't make it the whole year. I realized very quickly that, that position that I signed up for at that school wasn't the position that was, kind of sold to me. But I ended up finishing the year out, and this is when COVID started. So COVID started about, over halfway into that year. So I think this would have been 2020, if I'm not mistaken. Ended up teaching, virtually for most of that year. And my wife's job ended up going remote. So this was the perfect opportunity for us to leave New York. because we've been talking about it for a long time, and ultimately made a decision to move to Austin, Texas. So I needed a job, and I was like, let's try teaching in Texas. Let's see what it's like, let's give it a shot. So I applied for a few positions in Texas, ended up getting an interview with a school, Meridian World School, is a project-based learning school. Interview went fantastic, got offered the job. We left New York maybe, 3 weeks later. So I finished out the school year there, and, we left for Austin, Texas. Neither of us having been to Austin, Texas before. And we left, we didn't have a place either. So we just drove down there, and in like a few days we found an apartment and we set up home base there. Actually haven't been back to New York since. Actually going back this weekend. This is gonna be our first time we're flying back home this weekend. So
bring a coat.
Yeah. We get some snow down here, believe it or not. Last year there was a huge ice storm. It was like record breaking. Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, so Meridian got the job at Meridian and made it to Thanksgiving. Between the demand on the position and the hours, I think a lot of people think that teachers have this cushy, 40-hour week, you're in, you're out job, and it's simply not true. And I do think there are teachers that do have the opportunity to have that lifestyle. But for a math teacher, I think that does the job right, it's not a 40-hour week job. And it was the work-life balance wasn't there. And I was literally going insane. And my wife's like, just leave your job, just leave. We were in a good financial position at that point. So she's like, just leave. And I was like, okay. Again, had no game plan. You sensing this pattern here of no game plan?
We weren't gonna say anything, but
and again, I think Paul says it right from the outside. It's like, oh, this he's got his life figured out, right? It's like, dude's doing right. He's posted on social media. He's fit. He's like, oh yeah, he's not. It's not a facade per se, but like there's a lot going on in the background that I think people don't realize for a lot of people out there. So I left. And I have 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's degree in education. And I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like I was scared to go back into fitness because of what happened with Burch Fitness. I kind of had like PTSD from that situation a little bit. And I kind of still do in a sense. So I just started applying for jobs, just anything, and I ended up going to some interviews and stuff, and I'm just talking like labor jobs, and then I was like, you know what? No, I'm gonna apply for some personal training jobs. And I actually had personal trained at Cornell University for a couple months, right at the end of Burch Fitness, right before I started my back into teaching. So I had a little bit of experience one-on-one personal training through there. So put some feelers out, ended up actually getting a coaching position at an F45. And a lot of people don't know what F45 is, but F45 is it's a global fitness studio. It's functional fitness, it's HIIT training, it's circuit training with personal trainers on the floor with members. So it's a group fitness training facility. And I'll kind of just leave it at that. So I ended up getting a position there. It was part-time. Loved it. Was immediately, it's not one of those, and it's kind of hard to explain it if you haven't personal trained before, but one-on-one personal training is very direct. You're kind of spending your entire time with that client. You're coaching them through, maybe 8 movements. Well, F45 is, 24 people on the floor doing 18 movements all at once. So it's very much multitasking, and it's very much teaching. So I was so good at it right off the bat because I had the fitness knowledge, but I also had that teaching component that I'd worked on for 8 years. So my background in teaching played a huge role in me being successful in this position. And I loved it, fell in love with it. Now it wasn't enough. I needed more income. So what I also did is I got a position with a tutoring company in North Carolina, remotely. So I would do that, and I would teach, or I would coach at F45, kind of like as a full-time partnership. And something I kind of skipped out on, by the way, in this whole thing is that before Birch Fitness, I actually had another business, which was a tutoring business. It was called Twin Tiers Tutoring, with myself and one of my colleagues, James Neerstead. Very successful tutoring service that we provided in Elmira. Probably helped 100 kids at least between the two of us. We were very successful. We were like a name brand in Elmira, to be honest, when it came to tutoring. If someone wanted tutoring and they knew that we were the two guys for mathematics to go to. So I actually still have some clientele from New York. So that business isn't per se dead either. It's just not as big as it was before. So with my tutoring experience, I was able to, like I said, kind of make a full-time position between the coaching and the tutoring. Well, at 45, I realized really quickly was my future. Like this was, I loved it. It was the first time in my life that I woke up and I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I have to go to work today and this sucks. I was like, wow, I get to go to work today. I get to coach all these amazing people. I get to literally watch them progress. I mean, and the cool thing is they're adults. A lot of them older than me, 50, 60 years old, literally transforming themselves from off the couch, can't do anything, back hurts all the time, to doing box jumps and burpees and bench pressing. I'm talking 60-year-old women. Like it's crazy. And I did such a good job, and the manager of the studio, the owner of the studio, realized that, and I quickly went from just a trainer to the head trainer in charge of the entire training staff. So right now I have 7 trainers underneath me. I've been coaching there for about 1 year and 2 months. The facility, when I started there, I don't want to give a specific number, but we had under 100 members, and in my time I've been there, we've doubled that. We've doubled our membership. So I like to think I'm a big part of that. I've created a real relationship with that community, because the gym is community based, and I kind of consider myself like the leader of the community, in kind of like that beacon of light. And with my skill set from Birch Fitness, I was able to start a program within the gym. It's called Year of Change, where I provide nutritional support to the members. So I was also able to take my experience from Birch Fitness, everything I did there, nutritional consultations and all that, and I was able to apply that to my job, just bringing more value with me to that position. So it's funny when I started that position, I don't think the manager had any. He was just like, oh, okay, cool. You were a teacher. You're looking for something, like, I don't think he realized what the skill set that I was bringing with me. And I don't think I realized the skill set that I was bringing with me. That's a big thing. I went into it thinking like, I don't know if I'm gonna be good at this. I've never done this before. All I know is teaching mathematics. That's all I know. So the fact that I was able to get good at it very quickly and then develop based on the skill sets that I developed before, it just made the experience so much better. So, and that's where I am today. So, like I said, I'm the head trainer at 45 Round Rock here outside of Austin, Texas. I'm not making buku bucks, but I love my job. And one thing I've realized, and I have my wife to thank for this, is like it's not necessarily about how much you're making, and even as a teacher, we don't make that much money. But once you find your passion and what you're passionate about, the money is secondary. It doesn't really matter that much. Of course, you have to make ends meet. But I think, and I think that people say this a lot and people don't really believe it. But once you do find your calling, it's something that you have to be willing to do for free, I think. And I would do this for free. 100%. If money was no object, I don't think that I would stop doing this. Whereas most people are like, if they got the free ticket, they're out of here. They're out of their job. They're peace out. But I enjoy going to work every single day.
Yeah, it's amazing because you said something early on that said you can not like something but be very good at it. It was and I think that's what a majority of the population does.
Mm-hmm.
And they go the 5 days a week, and Matt and I have talked about it. What is it? People get like the scaries on Sunday because they don't want to go to work the next day, and then you just fight through the week, and then they hope to retire someday. And from what you just said, you're probably to the point you're not worried about the money in retiring because you found a calling and all that. You can tell you're already head trainer. You've got the tutoring business on the side. You're already expanding more than you realize because you went with your meaning and purpose first.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, Devin, I mean, it's obvious in our 4 pillars, you found meaning there, which is, quite honestly, I don't think something most people ever find in their jobs or careers, and they're different things. But even people who get into a career, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's extremely high, don't have any meaning. They're waiting for when do I get out of here? When do I retire? When can I go, sit on the couch and watch Jeopardy kind of thing? And to me, that's the saddest thing in the world. It's the saddest thing in the world, because you said it. I tend to agree. The money's not the thing. The money's a tool for whatever else you're trying to do with your life. But the meaning is what people should seek. And I've told this story a bunch of times. I'll say it to you. My mother once said to me, I know about my daughter, I know you just want her to be happy. And I said, no, that's not what I want for her. I want her to find meaning, because meaning is what's going to drive her for the next 60, 70 years of her life. It's not chasing some fleeting moments of joy and happiness. Those are great, and you should enjoy them when you get them. But that's not what gets you out of bed every morning. That's not why you got up and go, I can't wait to go to work, versus I've got this teaching job that everyone thinks is what I'm supposed to do. It's my career. It's what I went to school for, and I hate it. And I've been in those situations too, Devin. So I know what you're talking about. So, I think it's number one, I admire you for being so open about it, because so many people, they want you to believe what they put out on the surface, right? Whether it's you meet them in the restaurant or see them on social media, they've got the mask on and the whole, here's the facade. And most people don't have the courage you have to say, look, I've had some failures. I wasn't happy. It wasn't right for me. I have some PTSD from it. I'm still looking for this or that. Good for you. And that's why you're in a position at a young age where most people never will be. The most obvious question for me is, what's next where do you go with this company from here? Are you going to be happy forever doing it? Are there opportunities for growth? Do you start your own? Haven't you given it a lot of thought yet because you're enjoying it? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, my wife is she's very free spirited, and she always has these grand ideas. And one of them, Paul mentioned before we get on here, was for us to live in the van, in a converted van, and kind of travel across the country, and work remotely. That's one of our goals. That's one of our aspirations, I should say, or one of our dreams, right? Or another one is to stay in a different Airbnb every month and travel across the country. But for me, it's like, well, okay, well, what would I do? And the cool part is I could always fall back on tutoring. Tutoring's always been successful for me. Because I'm good at it, and actually, I believe it or not, I like tutoring. It's a lot better than classroom teaching, in my opinion, because most of the time the students they want to be there, and I put on a good hour for them. It's not this is boring. I got to go see the boring math tutor again. It's hey, I get to go work with Mr. Burch today. That's pretty cool. With the fitness, I've been having a lot of thoughts lately about about Burch Fitness, and I think a lot of people, especially nowadays, it's like, well, the remote opportunity. A lot of people want to work remote if they can. Why not? And I'm like, I ran this by my wife a couple weeks ago. I'm like, what do you think about me potentially starting the business up again? And it doesn't have to be, and this is where I failed, I think, to start. Instead of kind of just dipping my toe in and maybe getting a different job, and kind of complementing that with Birch Fitness, I kind of just dove straight in. I dove straight in. I didn't have a backup plan. But now I'm like, why don't I start getting active again on social media? Share my life, start sharing what I'm doing again. I'm 32 years old and I'm in the best shape of my life. How did I do that? What are things I can share to help people get in the best shape of their life or just get in shape at all? And, she's like, I think that's a great idea. There's no pressure. That's
Right.
that's the beauty, I think. And I think, not saying that Birch Fitness will ever be successful again necessarily, but I think that's the part that was missing before is I was throwing a Hail Mary. There was 5 seconds left in the game and I was throwing a Hail Mary and, I got 5 defenders around one guy, in the end zone. So, now it's kind of like, it's still the first half and I got plenty of time. And, if I want to step back into that role, I have the luxury of offering services, maybe a little bit cheaper than what I was before, just to start getting my feet wet again, start getting some clients. And, again, it goes back to enjoying what you do. I loved Birch Fitness because I loved coaching people. I love seeing them transform themselves, not just physically, but also mentally. I would have calls like this weekly with my clients and, this is another part I love about my job is it's more than just fitness. A lot of people, they put a lot of trust in me and they're willing to share things with me. And I hear their stories. And for a lot of people, it's beyond their health, beyond their fitness, right? There's a bigger, deeper story there that comes out. And I think when they realize that has an effect on a lot of the choices that they make, especially with their health and fitness.
Devin,
So
what do you mean by that? Can you give me an example without obviously mentioning anyone specific, of course? I'm not just curious. I kind of have a sense of what I think you mean, but I'm not sure I do.
yeah, so like for instance, there's some clients at the gym that I work with, and they've gone through some serious injuries in the past, right? And it weighs on them mentally because they want to perform at their best when they come into the gym. And I've had people break down because they know that they can't, because in the back of their mind, they're scared of getting injured again. They're scared of getting hurt. And, so it's a deeper level than just surface. It's not just, hey, I just need you to move more and eat less, right? That's what a lot of people think it is. There's a deeper level to health and fitness that I think a lot of people miss on. And that mental aspect is huge. And, I don't try to be a psychologist or a therapist, but I listen. Right? I listen. And just by listening and somebody saying it out loud, they can realize it on their own, right? Mm-hmm. They can realize it on their own. And, I've had clients with, teetering on the edge of eating disorders, right? And not that that's not my scope of practice. So I don't, but they just need to say it out loud. They need to say it out loud. They need to realize it themselves. Like, oh my gosh, I just said it out loud. And now I see.
Now it's real. Now I can deal with it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's super interesting. That makes sense. It's really interesting.
So I think I got off topic a little bit. I think
we don't mind at all. That's the point of this.
So kind of what I was saying is, now that, I've got this great job that I love, and, I have some extra time, dabbling back into Birch Fitness. And, it doesn't have to be Birch Fitness. It can just be me saying, hey guys, here I am. I'm going to kind of share my story with you guys. I'm going to kind of share my day-to-day with you guys, show you what I do, drop you some helpful tips, some hints, some tricks, things like that. And then, if I get some fish that bite that are like, hey, dude, I love what you're doing, man. You're an inspiration. Are you coaching? Cool. There it is right there. Like there's no pressure. And, I don't think it has to be like, hey, I'm offering services, come get a free consultation. And then,
Right.
I don't think it has to be like that. So that's
Well,
kind of my, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Devin, I get asked this question a lot from would-be entrepreneurs, and I, should I just jump in? I got this idea, or I want to do X. Should I just jump into it, or what? My advice generally, and especially someone who's, maybe a little older, is married, has a mortgage or whatever, has some obligations, right, financially. And even not, I tend to go with the philosophy, hey, look, if you can work for someone else, you can kind of have a little security over here and do something else on the side. Yeah, it's going to take more out of your week. You're going to spend more hours. That's a trade-off for it. That's how it works. But you're also not putting all your eggs in a basket.
Right.
So you kind of, you'll have the best of both worlds in terms of the security and starting your business, but have a little, but you'll be trading some more time for it. I think that's generally the way to go for people. I know that's what I did. My first several businesses I started, all of which I still have, all started while I was working for other people. Then I got out on my own when I built them to a degree where I didn't need that other income anymore. But I think that's sound advice for most would-be entrepreneurs. It's not for everyone, but I think it is. Now, how do you look at helping people in upstate New York when you're living in Austin? I mean, I know we're in an internet age, and I assume that's what it is. But do you see any additional challenges with that? Do you see any additional opportunities?
So are you saying in the scope of Burch Fitness or just in general?
Yes, I am saying the scope of Burch Fitness is what I was referring to.
Yeah, I mean, so the great thing with coaching online is that, it can be done. You can coach, in the States, out of the States. That's kind of the beauty of it. I did have a few clients that were, when I was coaching in New York, that were not New York based. So I did have some people that found me that were not based in New York. And really the approach isn't really any different from, coaching someone that's down the street from me or coaching someone that's across the country from me. Even if they're down the street, I still treat them, it's virtual coaching. And that's the great thing about the day and age we're in, is that you can provide a sound fitness and nutrition coaching service via the internet. There's a million programs out there, and between Zoom and this program I was using called Trainerize, where I would build all my clients' personalized fitness routines, and then helping with the nutrition side, it could all be done on a couple platforms, which is really the beauty of it. And it's where tech's going. The day and age of the personal trainer, people still love that personal touch, but the great thing that I provided was this direct video conferencing that I think a lot of coaches don't provide to their clients. A lot of coaches will, and I can speak to this because I've had a coach before, and it was all email. It was all email, and we're past that now. I think we're past that, and that kind of goes back to, you kind of get what you pay for. If you're going to go with a big box, big name person, you're probably going to get that level of coaching, and it's not going to be, it's not going to be that person usually coaching you. It's going to be a minion, right? Coaching you. Whereas with what I was providing, it was, you get what you see, right? You see my face. I am talking to you. What I tell everybody on my social, this is me. This is me right here. And it lets me be open too, right? Because I think a lot of people, when they see the coach, and I think, again, this goes back to what Paul was saying about, you see the coach on the outside and everything's rosy, but I think a lot of my clients, they like it when the coach is vulnerable too, because it humanizes them. And, it's like, this guy, he's got some things he's dealing with too. He's not perfect. He's making it work though. He's making it work, and it motivates them a little bit more to see what's happening on the inside as well. That makes sense.
Yeah, and Devin, you sound like a guy who values your freedom a lot, and as do I. And Paul was saying something before we were on recording about, you said something about traveling around. Is that part of your? And I don't know anything about it, so I don't have any preconceived notions here, but I'm curious now with your smile. But what is that? Is that something you try to fit in your life, the ability to kind of travel and move around, and your career is fit into that, or because we kind of touched on it several times, and I've taught online for colleges for years now, and one of the reasons I got involved in it was I could be anywhere, literally anywhere in the world, and handling my classrooms and those kinds of things. And I'm going back 12, 15 years now, and I thought it was just the coolest. I mean, it gave me a level of freedom that I was like, this is unbelievable. And now it's just gotten better and easier and more mainstream and all those things. And I can't tell you how important that was over the last 12, 15 years for me. Do you have a kind of similar kind of ideas, or?
Yeah, for sure. So before I talk about that, I want to mention my wife a little bit, because the Devin Burch before my wife, I'm a completely Devin Burch now. Okay. And a lot of that has to do with her and her outlook on life. I don't, when I say this, I don't mean this in a negative light, but I had the Elmira mindset. And what it was is like, hey, like I'm never leaving here. And I think a lot of people in small towns, you can really call that the small town mindset.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is it, man. This is cool. Like, I'm just going to stay here. Like, I have a job. I got a house. Like, cool. Like, what else do I need? And, my wife kind of opened my eyes to, like, hey, there might be more out there, right? We should go experience somewhere else.
That's pillar number 4 in our world, Devin. It's called perspective. Yep. She opened up an opportunity for you to gain perspective, and I'm leaving 2 days from now to go to Europe for 2 weeks, and the reason I go to Europe is for perspective, and the reason I travel where I travel and do the things I do, and it's for perspective. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's important for what Paul and I talk about all the time, and it's clearly something your wife has given you, and I think that's wonderful. But I know so many people, especially being a small town guy myself, and all of us are, they kind of have that small town perspective of this, everything's here, and why would I leave? And there's nothing else, and when you can open up that perspective, God, it's amazing. It blows your mind. So sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. And kind of going off that, I wouldn't have ever had the opportunity that I had at, F45. I wouldn't have had that in, Elmira, or even, we were living in Ithaca and Cortland for a couple of years as well. Even there, those opportunities aren't there. So by moving to Austin, it opened up, my opportunities for me. So, kind of getting back to your original question. So, we're my wife and I very much now are in this mindset of like, the grind is old school. Like working 60 hours, I think used to be cool. It was like, hey man, how long did you work last week? I worked 60. Oh man, you were a boss, dude. You're a grinder. Cool. Like that, we've kind of gotten away from that mindset. And we are trying to optimize our time in terms of like, okay, cool, let's try to make as much money as we can in as little hours as we can, right? We've gotten to a point where we're doing that now, and we're super comfortable. And our goal, our outlook, obviously, is to save and invest, but eventually to be at a point where we're both remote. She's already there. But then travel, just full-time travel. And traveling on a budget per se, not going out, and traveling as someone would go on like vacation,
Right.
but making it a lifestyle, so like I said, I mentioned the van thing and I mentioned the Airbnbs. My wife will remind me too that she would like to backpack through Europe for a year as well. She'll remind me of that once in a while. So we have aspirations. Right now, she actually has to have a jaw surgery. So right now, we're at least here for about, a year and a quarter right now. So we know that for about a year and a quarter, we are here. So this is, everything's good, So right now we're happy, we're comfortable, but we are not people that kind of stay in one place, because and when we moved from Elmira, we moved to Ithaca, then we moved to Cortland, and now we moved, to Austin, Texas. We're realizing, like, hey, there's more out there. Like we've got a good chunk of Texas, and we want to get a little bit more, but we also want to get a good chunk of maybe Colorado, maybe California, maybe Florida. Like, there's a lot of places that we want to see, a lot of places that we want to be. And I think I'm realizing at this point that I'm lucky enough to have a skill set that I think that if I needed to go get a tutoring job, I could do that. Or if Birch Fitness, if I started that back up and that, that brought me a little bit of side income, I could pair that with something else. So that's kind of like our outlook, the next 5-10 years. But like, honestly, we're not looking, we're preparing for retirement, of course. Like we're really good at saving for retirement, dabbling in some new age technology, cryptocurrency, things like that. But, we're not really thinking about 65 right now. We're not thinking about 65, where I think that used to be my mindset. Right. And I think that's, my grandparents instilled in me in that. Get a good job, save as much as you can for retirement, right? And, we're doing that. We're saving more than I think, 85% of people in America. But it's not like, yeah, but we're not trying to pinch pennies and just shovel everything we can into our Roth IRAs and, whatever, so we can max them out all the time and, do this or that. We're more of like living in the moment right now. And, that's kind of like the approach that we're taking. What we're being smart, obviously. And yeah. And it's weird because I would have never been like this if it wasn't for my wife. And it's a good thing. It really is a good thing. A lot of people I think would say, you're crazy, dude. Like, you're crazy. You're not thinking about retirement. Like, come on, man. Like, and I mean, if you're just thinking about the future all the time, you don't even know if you're going to make it to 65. That's the thing too. So, I hope that answered your question, Matt. Sorry, kind of.
No, it did. There. It did. I was curious some of the banter. So, yeah, that's interesting. Paul, go ahead. I interrupted.
We have to have you on we'll talk about crypto and blockchains and stuff some other time. Quick side note, I tell my kids, you were the first person that ever told me about Bitcoin.
Really?
You probably don't even remember back in our teaching days. And I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. And I wish I got into it when you said to. but that's a whole nother story. But I want to end with this because I mean, this has been an awesome discussion, but I'm a big proponent. You are where you're at because of what you experienced in the past. So I'm gonna set you up with a question. Would you change anything about your past journey, or do you think it's exactly what you should have done to get to this point now? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's funny. I've been thinking about this question quite a bit. For the sake of my wife, I wouldn't change anything because I don't think I would have met her, obviously. But if I could have met her still, I would 100% do it differently. I would 100% do it differently. And here's why. I never really wanted to be a teacher. It was in high school. It was, hey, what am I good at? Well, okay, I'm good at math. And like, okay, I'm kind of good at like helping people with math. And it was like, hey, be a teacher and get some of your student loans paid off in the process. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool, I guess. Like, yeah, I guess I'll do that. Like, it sounds it sounds stupid now that I think about it. It's like, really, dude, that was the thought process of how you decided your career path and what you were going to go to college for, and that was it. That, get a good job. That those were the values that were instilled in me. Get a good job that's dependable. You're going to get health insurance, and that you can have for life, right? Raise, you get your raises and.
Devin, it drives me crazy because, of course, that's what you thought, because what else were you going to think? Because that's what everyone's telling you. And it drives me crazy. And this is why I got involved with Paul's class and other things as well. As there needs to be other voices out there saying that's not the only thing. And you wonder why so many people have no purpose and no meaning in their lives, because they're told, get a good job, save for retirement, let someone take care of you. And just do this thing, and it'll take care of your needs, and you'll be safe. That's what the message is. Well, no wonder so many people are unhappy. No wonder. They never would have told you to do what you've done. Oh, I got an idea. Move all over the country, coach online, it goes outside of everything they would possibly say, from people who have no meaning, no purpose, and no happiness in their life. And that to me is the problem. And it takes people like you and others going out there and going, holy cow, look at what I can do on my own and what else is out there, leaving all these other people back in the 50s continuing to do those things. Unfortunately, those are the voices out there. Yeah. Those are 95% of the voices are, get a good job, go to college, get a good job, be safe, be safe, be safe. Wrong. It's a wrong message. I hate it. I mean, it's got its place in some sense, but it's misplaced today. It's misplaced for a lot of reasons. And your story is a perfect example of why. And I don't care about the money and the safety of it. They're so completely overrated. It's the purpose and the meaning and the perspective. Those are the things that matter. And I love what you've had to say, and you just obviously lit a fire under me on this whole thing, because it drives me crazy. And the people preaching this stuff are sending all these people down the same road of unhappiness. And I don't know when it ends. I really don't.
Devin, I'm going to put you on the spot now. I want you to Zoom with my class sometime soon. Because if you want to see how I strike a nerve with parents, I suggest to the kids they take a year off from school and just get a job and invest their money and explore what they're good at. Or they have so many credits at the local community college, just go there part-time and still pursue what you want to do and see what happens. Because until you experience X, Y, and Z, how do you know that's the path you want to take, right?
Yeah.
But boy,
I agree.
I get a couple coming after me. No, they're going to said university. Like, well, are they paying for it? Yeah. Well, then they don't have to go to that university, right? So,
and
it happened that way for you. It happened that way for me. I was late into the game. You're a lot earlier into the game and pursuing your meaning compared to what I was. Matt was even earlier than us, but here we all are, and I don't think you could argue for 2 seconds that we were better off to do it the old way, right?
Right.
So, hey, this has been fantastic. We're going to have you on someday when you're remote from your van, okay?
Yeah, that's great.
You're going to have a big satellite dish on the top, right?
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
Will be in the background cooking off the hood. No, I'm joking, but I'm not. That would be awesome.
I know. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Devin, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate both of you. Thanks for having me on here. This is great.
Thanks, Devin.
We'll talk soon.
Yep. All right.